Hello everyone, my name is Winters and welcome to Winters Budget Builds. Today we are going to cover the Fleet Kurak Battlecruiser. In this episode we are going to start off with weapons, gear and equipment. Then we're going to move on to the skill tree. From there we'll move on to the traits and bridge officer abilities, and then the bridge officers themselves, and then the duty officers. Finally we will finish up the episode by playing a patrol mission so that you guys can see what the build is actually like in battle. So this is the T6 version of the Moog. The T5 ship is obviously called the Moog. This one is called the Kurak, and it's a really great ship. I love this ship. A favorite of mine. I am using the Kurak skin on it. But I usually use the Moog skin on it, and if you own the Moog, you can use the Moog skin on it, but for the purposes of this video, I'm using the Kurak skin. Okay, so let's get started off, and we're going to begin, as always, with weapons, and first up here we have the Advanced Temporal Defense Chronoton Beam Array. Chronoton weapons do anti-proton damage, and if you haven't guessed already, this is an anti-proton build. I'm using this in conjunction with the Chronoton Drive Actuator, and we're using this for the 2-piece set bonus, which is plus 8.9% directed energy weapon damage and plus 5% crit severity. So a nice little bonus there for running those two pieces. We'll talk about the Chronoton Drive Actuator in a little while once we get down to consoles. Anyway, next up we have just ordinary Advanced Fleet Anti-Proton Beam Arrays. You can see the remainder of the weapons up front are all the same. I haven't even modded these, but if you wanted you could run crit D times 4 on them, crit D damage, or you could do damage times 4 on them, possibly. You can do them whatever way you want, but they were good enough. I didn't bother modding them for this video. I said that they were alright. Obviously, because they are anti-proton weapons, they have an innate crit severity bonus that comes with all anti-proton weapons, which is a 20% crit severity. And if you look at these weapons, because they already have a crit D modifier, the crit severity is up to 40% crit severity because of that one crit D modifier and then the extra innate crit D modifier that is built into anti-proton weapons. Okay, moving on, we are using the Iconium Resistance Deflector Array. We are also using the Iconium Resistance Hyper Impulse Engines and the Iconium Resistance Resilient Shield Array. We're using this for the not so much for the 3-piece set bonus, which is, well, right, first of all we have the 2-piece set bonus, which is Enhanced Shield Distribution. Distribute Shield applies 165.9 shield regeneration for 5 seconds to each facing. Once triggered, goes on 30-second cooldown. And the 3-piece set bonus is when firing energy weapons, 5% chance to get plus 10% energy weapon damage to teams, stacks up to 3 times. That's nice, but I'm sure as many of you are well aware, the community, people don't generally think about the team. They think about themselves. So that's nice to have, but it's not the reason why we're using the 3-piece Iconian set. Now, that 2-piece set bonus, you'll have seen I've explained this in previous videos, but if you mouse down here onto the icon of your ship where it shows your hull and shield strengths, basically when you click on the ship, you will get a free shield heal. You'll see it come up here around the ship, and it automatically redistributes your shields and also shields your heal. So I click it there now and see, there's the shield heal. That's actually a free shield heal you get, and really handy if you know, like if you're in a jam, you know, it could just save you from blowing up. Now next piece of equipment that we have is the Obelisk Subspace Rift Warp Core. I'm using this in conjunction with the Ancient Omnidirectional Beam Array. The reason why we are using this is for the 2-piece set bonus, which if I remember is a 10%, yeah, plus 10% anti-proton damage. A real nice bonus there just for using these 2 pieces. Now this is why I am actually using 3-piece Iconian, because I can't think of anything better to use, to be perfectly honest. And currently there is no other set that boosts anti-proton damage. So if I was running disruptor weapons on this ship, I would definitely be using the 2-piece Bjorn set, probably with 2-piece Iconian. So if you're using disruptor weapons on this ship, then yeah, 2-piece Bjorn is the way I would go, and 2-piece Iconian. Moving on to the aft weapons. As I said there, we have the ancient omnidirectional beam array. I'm using this in conjunction with the warp core, as I just said. Next up, we have the kinetic cutting beam, a favourite of mine. I'm using this in conjunction with the assimilated module. The 2-piece set bonus for this is Omega Weapon Amplifier, and that is 2.5% chance when firing energy weapons to gain Omega Weapon Amplifier for 5 seconds. And Omega Weapon Amplifier is plus 10 weapon power, plus 500 weapon power drain resistance, and minus 500% weapon power cost. So basically, there was a 2.5% chance that for 5 seconds you will fire all of your weapons at maximum potential, dealing out massive damage. That's what that basically is. The kinetic cutting beam is also a great thing to run on any build for the endeavor that you might get, or that you will get eventually, deal kinetic damage in space. Yeah, it's great to have the kinetic cutting beam on any build, really, just for that particular endeavor. Finally, in terms of app weapons, then I have an ordinary omnidirectional anti-proton beam array. This is from the crafting system. I crafted this myself. You can purchase them on the exchange. Actually, now that I think about it, I didn't even price them on the exchange. Yeah, that doesn't really matter. You should be able to craft this. You will need to be level 15 in the beam school in order to be able to craft this. And you'll need a beam weapon officer. But if you have a friend, you know, maybe in your fleet that is level 15 in the schools, you can give them the mats and they'll craft it for you. So that's the weapons there, and the space gear. I really like Battlecruisers. I love this layout of 5 weapons up front, 3 in the back, because it means then I can run 3 omnidirectionals in the back, and obviously 5 beam arrays up front, and essentially I have 8 weapons going forward onto my target. So I really like this layout for ships. I'm a big fan of Battlecruisers. Moving on to devices, we have a red matter capacitor, which you can get from the Phoenix Prize Pack. You need a very rare token in order to be able to pick one of those up. Basically, it improves all power levels by 25 for 30 seconds. Then I have a weapons battery, just in case I'm flying into battle at full impulse and I want to get a quick power buff to weapons. I carry a weapons battery for that. And then I always carry a stack of auxiliary batteries. Now the reason why I carry a stack of auxiliary batteries is because this is an Ox to Bat build, meaning that every time I hit this ability here, my Ox power will drain, it'll go into all 3 of the other subsystems and boost them up. But as you may be well aware, abilities like Hazard Emitters 2, Transfer Shield Strength 1, and so on are linked to your current auxiliary power level. So basically, the more power you have in auxiliary, the better these heals are. So if I do this here now, of course I can't do that because I don't have any damage. But what I can show you is if I hit auxiliary to battery here, boom, see the power level went down here and they went up here. Alright, what if I want a shield heal now? Alright, I need to buff my, and I just realized I don't have my batteries here. Oh, well that's an oversight. Let me fix that real quick. I don't need that. Auxiliary batteries, they'd be up here. There we go. Yeah. So, yeah, if I hit auxiliary battery, alright, and now I need a hull heal, my hull heal from Hazard Emitters 2 is going to be crap. However, if I use an auxiliary battery, and then I use Hazard Emitters 2, my hull heal is going to be significantly better. Okay. Moving on to consoles. Like we mentioned earlier, we're using the Chronoton Drive Actuator. I'm using this in conjunction with the Advanced Temporal Defense Chronoton Beam Array. Oh, by the way, this comes from the Temporal Reputation. Both of these items come from Temporal Rep. And the Fleet Anti-Proton Beam Arrays come from the Fleet. The Deflector, Impulse Engine, and Shield comes from Iconian Rep. Oh, and I completely forgot about the Warp Core. The Obelisk Warp Core comes from the story mission Sphere of Influence. Oh my god, I can't believe I forgot to mention that. So if we go to the Solanae Dyson story arc, and up at the very top here we have Sphere of Influence. And if we look here, we can see we have the Ancient Omnidirectional Beam Array and the Obelisk Subspace Rift Warp Core. Right, so that's where you get those items. The Kinetic Cutting Beam comes from Task Force Omega Rep, and the Omnidirectional comes from Crafting. Okay, the Chronoton Drive Actuator, plus 5 weapon power, plus 5 shield power, plus 18.8 Starship Control Expertise, and plus 9.4% maximum shield capacity. All really good stuff there. Very, very useful console. Next up, excuse me, we have the Crystalline Absorption Matrix, plus 19 energy damage resistance rating. So basically, increases your damage resistance to energy weapons. And then we have a massive plus 19% anti-proton damage. It's pretty self-explanatory why we're using that console. That's a huge buff and really good for an anti-proton build. The Crystalline Absorption Matrix came from a Crystalline Catastrophe event a couple of years ago, and currently there is actually no other way to get it in-game. So if you weren't around at the time, you won't be able to use this console. I do expect, however, that this console will go into either the Phoenix Prize Pack or the Muds Market on the Z Store. Here we are, Muds Market. It'll come in here at some point in the future. I just do not know when that will be. Conversion dual beam array. Maybe I could have used that. No, anyway, so yeah, it'll end up either in the Phoenix Prize Pack or in Muds Market, one of the two, at some point in the future. We just don't know when. Right, moving on. We then have the Polymorphic Probe array. This is going on the exchange for approximately 4.5 million energy credits, so not very expensive. It gives plus 25% anti-proton damage, which is massive, and pretty obvious why we're using it, and a plus 20 Starship Control Expertise. And that can come from either the Infinity Lockbox or the exchange, as I said there, for approximately 4.5 million energy credits. Next up, we have the Hydrodynamics Compensator, which comes from 8472 Rep. And this gives plus 3 engine power, plus 3 auxiliary power, plus 21.6 Starship weapon accuracy, and plus 28.9% flight turn rate, which is great in a battlecruiser because, you know, it's a cruiser and, you know, big, fat, slow, not very good at turning, and very, very useful for a ship like this. Then we have the Plasmatic Leech. Now, because this is a KDF character, you cannot purchase a Plasmatic Leech off the exchange, nor can you get one in the Infinity lockbox. The Plasmatic Leech on the KDF side comes from a Tier 3 starship called the Vandal Destroyer. Here it is right here. And if we look here, there it is, Plasmatic Leech. Okay. This is a great investment to make on the KDF side. It costs 1,000 Zen to purchase the Vandal Destroyer. It is an account unlock, so every single KDF character that you have, you simply claim this ship, you pull the Plasmatic Leech off it, you can dismiss the ship then, and put that Plasmatic Leech on any other ship that you want. So that's where the Plasmatic Leech comes from, and a great investment for the KDF side. Moving on. Next we have the Voth Phase Decoy. The Voth Phase Decoy came from the Breach event a number of years ago and is very similar to the Crystalline Absorption Matrix in that there is currently no other way of getting it. Just like with the Absorption Matrix, this will go into either the Phoenix Prize Pack or Mud's Market at some point in the future. We just do not know when that will be. It gives plus 20% anti-proton damage and plus 5% maximum hull capacity. So a really great console there for anti-proton builds. Next up we have the Assimilate Module. This comes from Task Force Omega Rep. Plus 1.1% critical chance, plus 10.9% critical severity, plus 5 weapon power, plus 6 starship damage control, plus 27.2 starship control expertise. And like I said earlier, we're using this in conjunction with the kinetic cutting beam, and we're getting the 2-piece set bonus, which is Omega Weapon Amplifier. Finally, in terms of consoles, we have Vulnerability Locators Anti-Proton variant. The reason why we are going for locators over exploiters is that you get a bigger bang for your buck by putting crit D modifiers on your weapons, as opposed to getting crit D from your tactical consoles. So, a fully upgraded fleet tactical console, a vulnerability exploiter, which gives anti-proton damage and plus critical severity or crit D, gives something like 9 point something % crit severity for each console. Whereas a single crit D modifier on a weapon gives 20% crit severity for each modifier. So you get a bigger bang for your buck going for the crit D modifiers on the weapons, and then go for the vulnerability locator consoles, and instead jack up your crit chance as much as you can via the locators instead of the exploiters. Now, if you do not have some of these consoles, like the Absorption Matrix and the Voth Decoy, some alternatives that you could go for would be maybe the Bioneural Gel Packs. Or Gel Pack console, which comes from, I want to say it's Delta Rep if I remember correctly. Yeah, here we are, Bioneural Gel Pack. You could go with that console, for example, instead of either one of these. And you could also, I want to say there's an anti-proton beam array in that for the 2-piece. Yeah, there is, yeah. However, the reason why we're not using that is because it gives a bridge officer reduction cooldown, and we're doing an Ox to Bat build, so I don't need to worry about that. So it didn't seem like a great console or weapon to put on this ship. Alternatively, or as well as, you could also put on the Iconian Radiant Field Generator, I think, is that what it's called? Well, it's Radiant Field something anyway. Sustained Radiant Field, sorry, there we are. Sustained Radiant Field, I was drawing a blank. Which again is a very good console, and there is an anti-proton beam array with it, which gives a bonus to hit points, I think, if I remember correctly. So you could put the Sustained Radiant Field in along with the Bioneural Gel Pack. If you didn't have either one of these consoles, they would work good. If you were doing that, you could put in the anti-proton beam arrays that are available in those reps as well, if you like. There's some good alternatives. Now, before anyone asks anything, the reason why I haven't gone for the competitive Reputation omnidirectional beam array is because it's either this one or the competitive one. Okay? It's one or the other. And to me, the 10% anti-proton damage that I get for using this, along with the Warp Core, was better than using the competitive rep anti-proton omnidirectional beam array. So that's why I'm not using that, okay? Right. What have I not talked about? The tactical consoles. They come from a fleet spire. You need tier 3 in your spire. You need tier 3 research in your spire to be able to purchase fleet tactical consoles. They're absolutely fantastic, and as you can see, these ones plus 37.5% anti-proton damage, which is absolutely amazing. Yeah, you get those for 50,000 energy credits a piece. It's a big investment, but believe me, it's worth it. Okay, right, let's move on to the skill tree. So, first up, we have 3 points in energy weapons training, which basically increases your overall damage. Then we have 2 points in shield capacity, increases the hit points in your shields. The reason why I've gone for this over the restoration is I believe it's better to be looking at something instead of looking for it. Then we have 2 points in hull capacity, very same as shield capacity. I believe it's better to be looking at something than looking for it. And this increases your hull hit points. Then we have 2 points in defensive maneuvering, increases your defense rating. We have 2 points in targeting expertise, which increases your accuracy. Then we have 2 points in drain expertise, which increases the effectiveness of things like the Plasmatic Leech and the amount of power you get from your currently selected target. I have 1 point in impulse expertise, which increases speed and turn rate. I have 2 points in electroplasma systems flow, which increases your power transfer rate between your various subsystems. So, for example, when I use Oxtabat here, when Oxtabat is finished, the more points I have in EPS increases the rate at which the power levels regenerate. See there, them slowly going back up. So the more points you have there, the quicker that happens. Or if you're in full impulse, and you know the way when you're in full impulse, all of your power goes into engines and your other 3 get drained down completely. Well, when you come out of full impulse, all 4 subsystems begin to go back to their preset states. The more points you have in EPS, the quicker that happens. Okay, moving on to the commander tier. Next up we have weapon specialization. We have 3 points in that, which increases your critical chance. Then we have 3 points in weapon amplification, which increases your crit severity. Then we have 3 points in shield hardness, which is kind of self-explanatory, increases the toughness of your shields. Then we have 2 points in damage control, which increases your regeneration rate for your hull. And then we have 2 points in hull plating, which increases your damage resistance rating to energy weapons. The reason why I haven't put ablative hull plating is that increases your damage resistance to kinetic and physical damage. And torpedoes are useless against shields, and I always aim to have my shields up most of the time. So therefore, I feel that that would be a wasted point. Moving on to the captain tier, we have 3 points in shield penetration, which increases the bleed through effect for your weapons through shields onto your target. Then we have 3 points in hull penetration, which increases the armor penetration for your weapons. Then we have 3 points in long range targeting sensors, and this increases the effectiveness of your weapons at greater distances. So the further you are away from your target, the less effective your weapons are, and the closer you are, the more effective they are. This decreases that penalty, the more points you have in long-range targeting sensors. Next up we have offensive subsystem tuning, engine subsystem performance, weapon subsystem performance, all of which gives us free bonus power. Then we have defensive subsystem tuning, auxiliary subsystem performance, and shield subsystem performance, all of which again gives free bonus power. And finally, in the general tier, we have warp core potential and improved warp core potential does the very same thing. It gives free bonus power to all subsystems here. Warp core potential gives +3 to all subsystem power, and improved warp core potential gives +2 to all subsystem power. So that's our skill tree. Right, next up we're going to move on to specializations. So for our primary, I'm using Intelligence Officer as my primary for this one. Intelligence Officer is a good solid specialization. It increases your overall defense in space, as well as a myriad of other abilities, which I'm not going to go into. But feel free to examine all the various bonuses that you get from the intelligence specialization. For my secondary, I'm using strategist as my secondary, and the more points you have in strategist, it increases your maximum shield capacity, which is really, really great. If I wasn't using intelligence officer, I would probably use pilot, but I said I'd use intelligence officer for the purposes of this video. Right, okay. Next up, we're on to traits. So, first trait, we have Advanced Rapid Support. Yeah, that's right, we'll read them this way. Reduces career-specific fleet recharge time. Then we have Bulkhead Technician, plus maximum hull points. Then we have Grace Under Fire. Taking damage can reset the recharge on miraculous repairs. Then we have Innocuous, minus threat and plus crit severity. Then we have Operative, plus crit chance and plus crit severity. And then we have Shield Technician, plus maximum shield hit points. Then we have Superior Accurate, upgraded at the Fleet K13 fleet holding. Increases ship weapon accuracy. Then we have Superior Beam Weapon Training, again upgraded at K13, plus beam weapon damage. Then we have Superior Elusive, increased defense, upgraded at K13 as well. And then Superior Techie, increased hull restoration and regen, once again upgraded at the K13 fleet holding. Okay, space traits. Now, this is where it's not where it gets tricky. It's sorry, I had to take a drink there. It's you'll see, and I'm sure somebody's going to pull me on it. First up is Desperate Repairs. And Desperate Repairs comes from the Guardian, Federation Guardian ship, T6 starship. And if you have the Guardian and you unlock the starship trait, it then becomes a free unlock on the KDF side across the account. Reclaimable through the Dilithium store. So that's where I got that trait. Next up, we have Improved Temporal Insight. Temporal immunity from hull heals. This comes from Delta Recruit. Unfortunately, if you want to round for Delta Recruit, you won't be able to use this starship trait. But a really, really great one if you do have it. Then we have Overwhelming Force. Oh my god, my voice is going. Beam overloads create charge particle burst. High yield torpedoes create photonic shockwaves. Overwhelming Force comes from the Mata Raptor. Let's see if I can find that really quick here. T6 Mata Raptor. Excuse me. And I feel we're getting close. We're getting real close. There it is there. That's the ship that it comes from. Okay, the Mata Raptor. Then we have Retaliation, damage and crit hit chance buff after critical hit. This comes from the Paladin Temporal Battlecruiser. Like the Guardian, and maybe I should have shown you the Guardian. Let's see if we can find it here. Somerville. Nope. I'm also looking for another ship as well. Phantom. Oh, they're miracle workers. Bear with me here, folks. There's the Guardian. There's the Guardian. Alright, so that's where you get that other starship trait from. And the Paladin. Where the hell is the Paladin? I must have skipped past it. I'm sure that the Paladin... Oh, wait. I was sure that the Paladin was for what do you call it? A Federation ship, but maybe I'm wrong. Yeah, I guess I'm just going blind. Yorktown. No, less things. Oh, here we are. Yeah, Paladin. That's where the retaliation trait comes from. Just like the Guardian, it's is a free unlock through the dilithium store if you have it. And finally, for starship traits, we have Superior Pedal to the Metal, which increases damage from full throttle. And you spend 30 points in Pilot to get that starship trait. Now, I realize this is a budget build, and I've just named quite a few starships there that you need in order to get certain starship traits. But here's the thing, this is just what I've used, okay? Because I've already earned them. And it was like, you know what, that'll work well on this ship. You use, you know, some of you are going to be in a better financial position than other players, and you might be able to purchase those ships. Others then may not be, and you might have to go for starship traits like Superior Command, I want to say that's Forces, or Pedal to the Metal, or Superior Predictive Algorithms. Basically the starship traits that you get from the various specializations. That's what you might have to go for. And you know what? That's totally fine. But I realize this is a budget build series, and I've just given you starship traits where you need to have another ship. So I realize that. But look, I'm just using what I have, okay? And if you have other, maybe even better starship traits, by all means, go ahead and use those. Next up, we have space reputation traits, and first is Advanced Targeting Systems rank 2, increased crit severity, which comes from Dyson Rep, tier 6. Then we have Destabilizing Phase Array rank 2, triggered damage immunity when hit, comes from Iconian Rep, tier 6. Then we have Enhanced Armor Penetration rank 2, ship weapons have increased armor penetration, comes from Delta Rep, rank 6, or tier 6. Then we have Enhanced Shield Penetration rank 2, minor shield penetration, which comes from Nukara Rep tier 6. And then we have Magnified Firepower rank 2, plus all weapon damage, comes from Gamma Reputation tier 6. In terms of active reputation, it's the good old favourites. We are using Anti-Time Entanglement Singularity rank 2. We're using Biomolecular Shield Generator rank 2. We're using Deploy Sensor Interference Platform rank 2. We're using Quantum Singularity Manipulation rank 2. And finally, Refracting Tetryon Cascade rank 2. Basically what I've done is, look, I've gone through the various active reputations and I've picked all space ones. Because I feel that space is more important than ground, and I've picked the best ones out of it, in my opinion. So feel free to change that. Maybe some people want to use 3 space ones and 2 ground. Look, it's down to the player. Okay, next up, we are on to Bridge Officer abilities. First up, we have a universal seat in which we're using an engineer, and I've got emergency power to weapons 1, auxiliary power to emergency battery 1, and Emit Unstable Warp Bubble 2. In our Lieutenant Commander Tactical Station, I have Intelligence Team 1 because it's a /intelligence seat. Then I have Attack Pattern Beta 1 and Beam Fire at Will 3. You can change that out to Beam Overload if you like either. It's completely your choice what you want to do. If you prefer Beam Overload, normally I would run Beam Overload, but I'm going to show you Beam Fire at Will for the purposes of this video. Then in our Ensign Tactical, we have a Tactical Team 1. In our Commander Engineering, we have Engineering Team 1, which is a hull heal. We have another Auxiliary Power to Emergency Battery 1. We have Reverse Shield Polarity 2. And then we have Directed Energy Modulation 3. And in our Lieutenant Science, we have a Transfer Shield Strength 1 and a Hazard Emitters 2, which is a shield and hull heal. Now, normally, when I have the option to run 2 tactical Lieutenant Commanders, I do it. But I didn't do it for this build, mainly because of this Ensign Tactical. I figured that an Ox to Bat build was a better way to go. And it works very well with this particular ship. But yes, it is another. It's an option that you might think of. You could put in a tactical here, and you could do another Tac Team 1, Attack Pattern Beta 1, and let's say if you leave this at Fire at Will 3, put an Overload 3 here instead. So that's an alternative way of doing it. And then you have 2 tac teams, 2 attack patterns, and 2 weapons buffs. And you also have an intelligence team extra then as well, which is an extra buff. Alternatively, if you didn't want to use intelligence team, you could use evade target lock. Of course, there's a whole myriad of different intelligence officer abilities that you could use, but I decided to go with intelligence team. Right, they're the bridge officer abilities. Now, as for the bridge officers themselves, and I just need to lock them in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Right. I have gone with all Nausicaan bridge officers. As you can see there, they're all Nausicaans. And the reason for that is for the trait that all Nausicaans come with, which is Pirate. And it is plus 1.5% bonus all damage, plus 150 Starship Stealth. As you can see represented by this icon here, it is a Starship trait. These are grand traits, these ones. Yeah, I've gone for a full Nausicaan crew on my ship, benefiting from this Pirate trait from each and every single one of them. Now, some alternatives. For your 2 tactical stations here, you could run with some superior Romulan operatives from the Fleet Embassy, or the Exchange if you're already a Romulan officer. Then you could run with a Nausicaan, and if you're rank 4 marauding, you could run with an engineering human. And for your science, you could run with Mr. Potato Head, that comes from the Story Mission Alliances, who has the Pirate and Efficient Starship traits. Or, if you have the Jemadar Vanguard Bridge Officers, you could have 1 TAC, 1 Engineer, and 1 Psi, and then a Superior Romulan Operative and a Nausicaan. There's quite a few alternatives that you could do for your bridge officer layout, and all of them will work just as well as the others. I just decided to go all Nausicaan just to be different for this ship. Yeah, no other reason other than that. Okay, next up we are going to talk about duty officers. So, in our active space, first up we have a Warfare Master, which comes from Gamma Recruit. Whoops. Sorry about that, folks. The Warfare Master comes as a Gamma Recruit reward, and unfortunately, if you weren't around for any of the Gamma Recruit events, you won't have access to this. But if you do have access to him and you are around, he's a great duty officer to have. Plus 10% all damage. Absolutely brilliant. Really, really great. Next up, we have 3 technicians. You can see them here, 2 of 12. And technicians... Now, here's the thing, alright? You can purchase purple technicians on the exchange at the moment for 12.5 million energy credits. But this is a budget build series, so I'm going to show you alternative ways to obtain them without having to spend a dime. So if we open up the galaxy map here, and I'm going to assume that most of you are familiar with my intro to duty officer, the intro into the duty officer system and the advanced intro into the duty officer system, and you're familiar with these nebula and cluster assignment chains. If you go to this one here in the top right hand corner of the beta quadrant, the Bertrand cluster, alright, just like any of the others, the Bertrand cluster has a 7-part assignment chain. It will take about a week to complete the assignment chain. And once you have completed all 7 steps, it then unlocks a brand new repeatable mission that is titled something like Support Colonization Efforts in the Bertrand Cluster. Something along those lines. Alright? It will stand out from all other missions because it will have one of these icons on it, okay? Which represents a special item. Now, the mission only comes up, it's like once every 4 or once every 8 hours, so it can be tricky to nail it down. But if you run the mission, the new repeatable mission, okay, and you get a critical success off it, you will get a free purple quality technician. If you don't get a critical success off it, you will just end up with a refugee. Now, you can do this mission as many times as you like, and you can crit on it as many times as possible and get as many free purple technicians as you want. If you want 10 purple technicians, you can farm this as many times as it takes you to get 10 free purple technicians. Yeah, it's this is where you can get them for free, and you don't have to spend 12.5 million energy credits on them at all. You just get them for free there by doing the assignment chain. And just on a side note, every one of these nebulas and clusters, okay, in the beta quadrant and the alpha quadrant, alright, see they're over here too, they all have a 7-part assignment chain, and each and every single one of them, when you complete step 7 of 7, you get a free rare quality duty officer, and each one unlocks a new repeatable mission where if you get a critical success off it, you will get a free purple whatever duty officer. It just so happens Bertrand cluster is a technician, the Harami cluster is an astrometric scientist, the Delta Volanus cluster is a doctor, and yeah, there's a whole multitude of them out there. So there's the technicians. Next up we have a fabrication engineer, and this is probably the most expensive item on the build. They're currently going for about 12 million energy credits off the exchange. Not a huge price, but you know, a little bit pricey. Of course, you know, it depends. To some people that'll be astronomical, and other people will be like, yeah, that's nothing. But believe me, it's not that bad. I mean, I remember paying, you know, like 80 million for a particular duty officer, and you still can do crap like that. So 12 million isn't, you know, it's not terrible. I mean, if you have 12 characters, run Tour the Galaxy 12 times, once on each character, boom, there's your 12 million right there. Anyway, Finally, we have an astrometric scientist, which are currently going for approximately 250,000 energy credits on the exchange, and they reduce the recharge time of all transwarp abilities. And I just realized I didn't really talk about the bridge officers. Alright, so that's what they do. Like I mentioned before, you can get a free astrometrics, or you can get as many free astrometric scientists as you want from the Harami cluster here. Now, the fabrication engineer, he increases the duration of reverse shield polarity by 8 seconds. 8 seconds is a huge amount of time in combat. Absolutely massive, so he's a really great one there. And we're using reverse shield polarity 2 as our oh crap button, basically. And actually, I'm going to come back to that now in a second. The technicians. Crap, let me mute my phone. The technicians, each one of them, bridge officer power recharge reduced by 10% after activating auxiliary power to emergency battery. So every time I hit auxiliary power to emergency battery, I get a 30% reduction on bridge officer abilities. So I'll just kick them off here. Watch what happens now. 30 seconds, 29 seconds, boom, 19 seconds. See? Alright. And when this finishes here, I'll be able to bring this down to like 1 second on both of them, like so. See, 1 second, 1 second, and this is how you double the amount of tactical stations you have by doing a Nox to Bat build. Right, that's duty officers. Now, a little trick. I told you that we were using reverse shield polarity as our oh crap button. What reverse shield polarity does is instead of taking damage, when enemies fire energy weapons at you, instead of decreasing your shield power, it will regenerate your shield power to the side that's been hit. But if you use reverse shield polarity in conjunction with tactical team, okay, it will redistribute your shield power to all shield facings, and you can go from 0 shield power to 100% shield power on all 4 facings. So a neat little trick there. When you use reverse shield polarity, make sure you use tactical team at the same time, and you can regenerate all of your shields to their max strength, which can keep you in the fight for longer. Okay. Next up, we are going to take this bad boy into combat. So we are going to go to our favorite patrol in the Donatu system, Sentinels. So we're going to launch that bad boy and jump in here. Excuse me.
We're in luck. We made it here before Jaula. Let's get to work. Starfleet is studying a spork. We're carrying some...
Okay, so I suppose I would give this ship, I would give it 9 out of 10 warp cores for my fun factor rating. It's a lot of fun. It really is. It's a great ship in combat. You can see some of the ships already starting to blow up there now. It's got the survivability, and it can, it can pump out the numbers as well, pretty well. Yeah, I really like it. I find it a very fun ship to fly, and it's definitely one of my favorites. I remember when the Tier 5 Avenger came out, and the Tier 5 mold, they're basically the same ship, just one's Fed, one's KDF, and I fell in love with those ships, and these are just the Tier 6 variants, or this is the T6 KDF variant, and it's it's a lot of fun to fly. So yeah, I'd give this a solid 9 out of 10 is what I would give it. And I just realized I am not on my own in here. Crap. Right. I was hoping to be on my own here. Well, look, it is what it is. I can't do much about that now.
Let's get satellite Gamma online while we can.
So yeah, it's got good survivability. and with help of consoles and some points in the skill tree, it's got fairly decent maneuverability overall. Like that hydrodynamics compensator, that really helps with the maneuverability a lot, you know? Alright, there's all them taken out.
Get to work.
Moving on to the next area.
They're hitting Satellite Alpha again.
Now here's a good... See, I have no weapons power, so when I get into combat here... Crap, I don't have an auxiliary. Ah! Alright, I'll just hit the red magnet capacitor. Alright, that didn't work out as well as I'd hoped. Never mind. We'll make do. So what I wanted to do there... How did I miss that earlier that I didn't have my weapons power up there either?
Another Alachi going after Satellite Delta.
Alright, come on. Come out of red alert.
Getting readings from Satellite Gamma. Looks like an Alachi flagship.
Right, so I realized that for some reason that I did end up in here with somebody else, but hopefully you can see that I'm still doing pretty good, even though I realized that I wanted this to be a single player environment, but it just didn't work out that way for me, which is annoying. But look at, I'm not going to be recording the entire episode again because the system had a bit of a brain fart. Boom! There we go. Ta-da! Right.
Getting lots of the Alachi.
And we'll leave the system. Okay, so yeah, 9 out of 10 warp cores for a fun factor rating. As always, there was a link to this build below in the description. If you guys have any requests for future builds that you would like me to work on for particular ships, feel free to leave a comment below, and if I have the ship, I will endeavour to do a build on it for you. Yeah, thanks a million for watching, folks. I hope you all enjoyed this episode. If you did, please like, comment, subscribe, do all that good stuff. I appreciate all of your support. And my name is Winters, and I'll see you next time. So until then, adios.